Hello and welcome to the Hotel Marketing Show. In this podcast, we're going to talk about all things hotel marketing. We're going to talk about things that are happening in the industry, insights, things that all hotel marketers or anybody that has an interest in hotel marketing wants to know about. My name is Victoria.
And I'm Nadine.
And we're the hosts of the Hotel Marketing Show. To kick off the podcast today, in this episode, Nadine and I are going to be talking about the 2023 hotel marketing trends that you need to know about.
I'm very excited for this episode. It kind of actually brings me back to the first episode we ever recorded. So it feels like we've gone full circle. The first one we recorded was 2022 and now it's 2023 and let's see where all the trends are at.
I know, 1 year on, where are we now? It's like those celebrity things. Where are we now? Not us as
Exactly. A little
celebrities, but
flashback. Oh, we'll get there in 2024. Yeah, I think it's really nice to see also the trends that we talked about in 2022, actually. We kind of kept an eye on them, of course, throughout the year, and so many of them actually came to be a trend, and some, no spoiler alert, but some are still here for 2023 as well. So that's
that's
interesting to
true.
see.
That is true.
And I was just thinking that we have to stay true to our roots, right? So
Yep.
last year, we started the episode actually with saying what is one thing that you started in 2021 and are going to continue doing in 2022. And I feel now that we have this episode, we should take a tiny moment to reflect on that and see where we're at. First of all, did you continue doing what you said you were going to keep doing in 2022?
Which I think I said cross stitching, wasn't it? That was my one?
I think
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I did, but then I stopped.
So you didn't.
So I didn't. But I switched hobbies. I actually finished a really nice project of the cross stitching, but then I switched and then I became more of like got more into knitting. So knitting was how I finished 2022.
Okay, but you stayed loyal to, like,
I
the
stayed loyal
kind of
to a
arts
craft.
and crafts.
Exactly. Craft with
Nice.
like some string. Yeah. What about
Yes.
you?
Well, I said candle making, and I still claim that I do make candles, but it's been so long since I have made a candle, so I don't think I can actually count that.
And I think that
Um
you have some of our previous guests still
Oh,
waiting
yeah,
for a
I
candle, don't
know,
you?
I see you. I see you. There's still an outstanding gift to Ricardo and to Carl. They will get my candles when they least expect it.
They'll just turn up randomly.
Yeah. Okay, and in that spirit, what is one thing that you will or let's change it up. What is one thing you want to do in 2023?
One thing that I want to do in 2023. Well, this is a very short-term one, but I'm working on knitting a vest at the moment, and I want to finish that vest before it gets to the summer because I mean, you can still wear it in summer, but I feel like mainly it's going to be like a spring kind of vest. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
I think maybe taking up candle making again. I know this is super late, but like
We
it
need
was
to branch out.
oh my God. It was such a great hobby. It was such a meditative thing. And I love candles. I love the essential oils. I love the smells. So I feel like it's just the perfect thing for me. It was just Brexit really fucked me up because I ordered it from the UK and then it was super like now it's super hard and now I can't find the wax. So it's just a whole journey. But I'm committed. I'm gonna look for the wax and I'm gonna take it out.
Very nice.
My
Well,
first candles go out, my first candles go out too. So
yeah, very nice. That's
nice.
awesome. Yeah, I am actually really excited about this episode because I think that the trends, well, I know that the trends for 2023 are really exciting. And I think it's really cool to see where we are compared to where we were this time last year, like as an industry as well, right? So, like at the end of or the beginning of last year, we were still kind of coming out of the pandemic. We were still in some kind of lockdown situations, like in a lot of parts of the world. So, I think it's really cool now to be able to see, okay, now that we're kind of that's a little bit more behind us, what are we focusing on now? I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to dive a little deeper into these. I think we can get started with the first one straight away, right?
Yep, let's go for it.
If I wouldn't know that you know what they will be, I would be like, what is your prognosis for the 2023 trends? But I think we can start off with a really fun one, actually, which we saw kind of evolving in 2022, which was the power of video. And I think we kind of saw it more towards the end of 2022, I believe, than at the beginning of 2022. But There was a lot of videos, short form and long ones, which were posted online, social media, kind of either having a little sneak peek behind the scenes, just to kind of just humanize a little bit more the experience and give more of an insight. So I think that like the whole thing with TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn videos is actually quite fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just have a stat that I've prepared. I'm gonna wait, you can see I've got our blog on the 2023 hotel market.
Oh,
Okay, it's not
nice.
working. I've got the blog up on my phone, but I want to read out this stat. 90% of marketers who have already been using short term video say they will maintain or increase their investment in 2023. So I think that that's a pretty significant number of people that are continuing on using short form video. So I think it's like how you can see, like, it has been really successful for a lot of marketers and they're continuing to like put investment and time into it. So I think this is going to be a really big one to watch out for this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the main issues, or not issues, but maybe some concerns that individuals or hotels or companies had was to say, like, are we targeting the right people with videos? Will people actually watch these videos or will we just produce them, the content, and then there's actually not much demand for it? But I also have a stat
Ooh, stat
which
alert.
says yeah, stat alert, exactly. Not let you take all the stats. No, but the stat, or basically what was found by research, was that 50% of millennials and almost 40% of Gen Xers were using TikTok in 2022. So it's not necessarily only one generation where you feel like you're really narrowing down. It's basically more quite the opposite. You're just expanding your network and your reach. And I think that that's quite interesting for everyone who was worried that maybe videos are just not their target group or not targeting the right audience for them.
Yeah, totally. And this is something that we talked about in our episode with Sam from 80 Days when we specifically spoke about Gen Z, but we were talking about short form video there. And one thing that I saw in the lead up to that episode was that Booking.com were actually using short form video as a way to test out content before investing in like a bigger campaign. So I think it's really clever actually how you can use short form video, not just as like, you don't have to do these like silly TikTok dances, although they're fun. And I think that they do still get some good views and engagement. But I think that you can use it actually incorporating it into those wider marketing campaigns and testing what works and what doesn't before investing more time and money into it.
I love that actually. I never thought about it that way, that you can actually kind of test run your campaigns before you actually make a decision on a big budget. I mean, I think at the end of the day, now there are so many different ways that you can actually use your budget that it does make sense to kind of test it out before you commit to something. I had the conversation with a hotelier the other day who was actually mentioning that for the longest time they're still doing print advertising, and it's kind of, you need to test out new things to see what works, what doesn't. And of course, there's always maybe the little barrier of saying, like, how can we go from print to videos? That's like something completely different niche, completely different people who are going to see this. So I think that's a really neat way of putting it, to just say, test it out before you actually make a big decision that impacts your budget in such a grand scale.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think also like, yeah, you don't want to, what is the saying? Throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that just if you want to try short form video, it doesn't mean exactly like what you're saying that you have to get rid of everything else. I think, yeah, testing out, do these channels work? Because it also is like a different skill as well, right? So you don't want to, throw out all of your other skills that you have or, the team that you've been working with, but actually like how can you test things and try out different channels in your marketing?
Yeah, I think this is a super nice trend. I like it.
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
by at the
Nadine
end, we're probably
approved.
gonna be like Nadine approved. Check. By the end of it, we're probably gonna be asking ourselves or each other, what is your favorite trend? I was about to say, I think this is my favorite trend, but I feel like not so hasty, Nadine.
Yeah, more to come. At
There's
the
still a
end.
couple more
But
steps
we
at
have
the
to ask
end.
you at the end, yeah.
Yeah. And if I say that the power of video is my favorite one, that means something, because you know how video shy I was.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You've come a long way. So proud. Awesome. Okay, so our second hotel marketing trend for 2023 is generative AI and ChatGPT. And I think that if you have been on the internet at all since December, you definitely will have heard about ChatGPT and maybe you're not 100% familiar with the term generative AI, but if you've heard of ChatGPT, basically ChatGPT is a generative AI software. Basically, generative AI means artificial intelligence that generates, like, it could be images or it could be text or it could be music, something like that. So basically, it's artificial intelligence that generates something new from the prompts that it's given. Have you played with ChatGPT much, Nadine?
I have actually. I feel like it's one of these things that weren't there and then all of a sudden it was everywhere. I think it got released in November last year, right? And now all of a sudden it's become massive. And at the beginning I was reading about it and I went, okay, that sounds kind of neat, but you don't know how neat until you tried it out. 'Cause I started with just something super broad and I'm like, oh, this is so nice. I don't have to like Google something. And then realizing actually how detailed you can get and just the thought of these endless opportunities for me is something that we're just starting to explore it. We're not anywhere close to understanding, I think, how much this will impact our future.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm not sure about you, but I've seen a lot of posts. Maybe it's more specific in marketing. I don't know if you've seen it from a sales point of view as well, but I've seen so many posts where it's like, how will ChatGPT impact marketing? Like, what does it look like? Are we going to have jobs? All of that kind of stuff. And so, basically, what we think of as a trend for ChatGPT for hotel marketers in 2023 is, or also generative AI more generally, rather than just ChatGPT, but that generative AI is not going to get rid of your job, but it's actually going to be able to help make your job easier. So, for example, for marketers, this could be creating SEO friendly content, stuff for on your website, for social media. It could be also used for example, keyword research. It can also be used for assisting with generating marketing content, such as promotional emails or blog posts, special offers, specific USPs for different personas. But I think that the main thing for generative AI in 2023 is that it's still not perfect. So it's definitely not going to be like replacing the job of content marketers anytime soon. You do definitely, I don't know if you've seen some of the weird answers that it gives sometimes, Nadine, but you definitely still need to have some input in there for editing and tidying it up, especially to make sure that your brand tone of voice is still reflected in that content as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. First of all, I think I always love the content you produce, like your own personal content. So when you were trying to knit that little microphone sweater, which was absolutely fantastic. Like you said, I still think like of course there's still a lot that you can just take from it and just place it somewhere and it's perfect. I also read this post the other day on the topic of saying we're afraid that it will take over our jobs, and it's not the case, but what could be the case is that someone who uses it will take over your job if you don't use it. So I think that's kind of a way to look at it, which is maybe I don't know if it makes it any better, but I think it's definitely highlighting the importance of it. It's not a fad, it's not some kind of trend which is just gonna go away, and I think especially for hospitality, if we're talking on an individual level, like you said, for marketers, but also hotels have such endless opportunities to actually use this and integrate this into the journey of the guest on their website. I mean, think about all the endless opportunities you have if you have something like that on your website and someone browses on your page and goes like, "Can you propose me a romantic agenda for my dates between the 27th, da, 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 whatever." And it just gives you an entire agenda. I personally, if I would see that on a website, I'm sold because I feel like, "Ah, this is exactly all I need." So I think that's something to really look out for.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's just like so interesting, like what these different uses for it are, like outside of just, I don't know, the immediate things that you think of.
I also love I mean, the little microphone, tiny mic sweater was great, which what I also loved was the story of a colleague of ours who wanted to tell her husband that they need to separate the house chores a little better, but she didn't know how to put it, so she asked ChatGPT how to tell her husband that she needs a little bit more help. And
Bit of
it
a
actually
more
came up
equal
with
distribution of labor.
yeah, and it actually came up with such a fantastic answer that she just copy pasted it and sent it to him.
So
So
good.
I think yeah, you never know now if someone actually texts you or if they just
Is it real? Is
AI'd
it
it in.
you? Yeah. We need those,
AI.
"Are you a robot?" Like,
Yeah,
"Are you
exactly.
human? Are you a robot?"
Click on 8
Captcha.
traffic lights and 15 palm trees.
It's so true.
But yeah, super exciting trend, super important trend. And I'm sure when we film and record our 2024 prognosis for trends, it'll still be there.
Yeah, except this time the episode will be written by ChatGPT rather than you
Exactly.
and me.
So the third trend we wanted to talk about today was or is also a really interesting one, which is using social media as a search engine. And I think this is also a really, really interesting one because we can see that so many people actually are using TikTok, Instagram, other social media platforms, not only to just get inspiration about recipes or whatever, but they're actually using it instead of Google, for example, to say, well, even if it's recipes or travel or hotels, what are their preferences? So I think there it's also super important to not see social media as like a nice thing to have, but it's becoming, I think, in 2023 really a must-have. If you're not on social media, it's it's a minus point already. And I remember the story from you as well, who was talking about your husband who was actually looking at YouTube videos forever and ever while planning, was it planning a trip?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
planning a trip,
planning a
right?
trip. Yeah,
So you can actually see it's not something that people just assume it's happening. It's actually happening right in front of our eyes.
yeah.
And there's also this interesting stat to it because 87% of people actually agree that YouTube creators give recommendations that they can trust. So YouTube creators have kind of become friends. Yeah.
Trusted advisors. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, actually, I saw something really did I say interesting twice? Actually, the other day I saw something really interesting on LinkedIn, and it was that TikTok is now doing advertising around how people are using TikTok for search. So, like, TikTok knows that people are using it for search now and are using it in their marketing. So, I think that's just one way to know this is really a powerful channel to make sure that you're on. And also, if even if you're not on, maybe we'll come to that in a little bit, but like making sure that there is content about your property on TikTok, whether that's from you or influencer. More to come on that and later in the trends. But
Spoiler alert.
because I think also what you're saying, Nadine, about like the trusted creators, like the trusted influencers, I think that like on social media, especially use incorporating that video content, I think it's really powerful. And if that's where people are searching, I think that's a really important place to be. One stat which I also have a stat, is that 40% of travelers you didn't say this stat already, did you? Okay, good. Just you kind of like zone out, black out. 40% of travelers over 30 now prefer using TikTok over Google for trip research. And I think this ties back to what you were saying before as well about short form video, that TikTok isn't just a platform for Gen Z, it's also I was gonna say like older people, millennials, older people are actually
Oldies.
they're actually using these channels for search. And when I was doing some research for the blog that we had on 2023 hotel marketing trends, I actually found this story about two unknown towns in China, and a couple of influencers posted about those towns on TikTok. And it was like they said almost as if it was overnight, those towns became overrun with tourists. So I think that just shows like how influential, like the combination of short form video, but then also like showing that people actually are using these channels for search now. I think it's really, yeah, really powerful.
Yeah. I think this is again one of these things where same with ChatGPT. I think it's so similar because you kind of had social media the whole time just kind of swirling by you and you open Instagram sometimes and back in the day posted a picture with your friend and then commented other people's things, but then that was it. You didn't really use it for anything besides that. And now all of a sudden it's become like a big snowball effect because now the from what we had initially anticipated what we would use for is completely different to what we actually use it for now.
Yeah, it's so
So,
true.
yeah,
I saw this meme the other day and it was like, "The year is 2012. You've just uploaded a grainy picture of your dinner to Instagram. It got 0 likes, but you log off and are happy," or something like that, and I was just like, "It's so true. It's so
that is
not like
so
that
true.
anymore."
Yeah, nope, that is very true. Yeah, and also I think I don't know if you have the same thing, but when I, for example, decide if I wanna go to a restaurant or something, I see it online, but then most of the time, if it's like a big commitment kinda dinner, like you really wanna
Mhm,
go for a nice dinner, I check Instagram and then check the pictures that people took in the restaurant because I know, like, they're not curated. This is what you're gonna get.
mhm.
So, it's just become part of my search behavior for a place, and yeah, people, of course, do that with hotels as well.
Yeah, it's really true. Have you seen those videos on TikTok where it's like, "You won't believe this town," or as in, I don't know, I saw one where it was like where it's like showing like a beautiful landscape of, I don't know, somewhere in the Alps or in Austria or something like that, and then it's like they say it's like some backwater town in America. Have you seen those?
No, but I also have to admit that I'm not on TikTok.
Oh, okay. So basically, because I did a terrible job of explaining it, but basically what happens is they show this like really picturesque footage of a town, like the landscape, etc. But then they put like a text over it, and it's like, I can't believe that this is, I don't know, let's just like, where's a place? I can't believe that this is Utrecht or something like that. But
Missouri.
then it's like,
Oh,
yeah, Missouri. Yeah, we just say it's somewhere random. But it's actually like somewhere from like, I don't know, some beautiful mountain resort somewhere. And then some people have actually been going to those towns expecting it to look like the TikTok, and it's like not. And it's just, I
oh,
think it just shows like people legitimately are using that information on TikTok. Like they trust it so much that they're not even bothering to double check. Does this actually exist in the town that I think it does? But
oh my god, and
it's
can you
crazy.
imagine that is crazy because people go and then they plan to travel by car or by train, and then they don't even they book a hotel and they don't even bother checking if that's what the place looks like. And I know this is, like, way beyond scope of this podcast right now, but I think this is exactly where we enter this whole, like, you have to be careful what you see on social media because
Yeah.
it's not always the truth.
No.
So, I think it can go both ways.
Yeah, it is so true. Okay, cool. So, trend number 4 for our hotel marketing trends for 2023. Now, this is a bit of a different take on guest experience. It's about guest experience online. So, in 2023, one of our predictions is that travelers will expect an elevated user experience on all devices. And I think that the critical thing there is elevated user experience on all devices. So that doesn't just mean that you have a mobile site. You can't see, well, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, but if you're listening on the podcast, you're just doing these little quotation marks. So it doesn't just mean that you have a mobile site in quotation marks. It means that you actually have a site that is designed with mobile experience in mind. And I think I can't even know how many years now, maybe like the last like 5 years, I think that you've probably heard over and over again, mobile, 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 like more people are shopping on mobile, more people are shopping on mobile. But I think that now mobile searches account for 60% of search volume. Like that's over half, right? Like it's really important. And especially as younger generations become like have a bigger market share, these people are using mobile as their first protocol for searching and looking for their trips. So not only just having a beautiful website experience on desktop, but like you need to have it designed for mobile as well.
And I think this is a really good point because, again, we've been talking about mobile for years. It's not something new that we come out and say, like, 2023 is going to be the year of mobile. No, it's already there. We're in the middle of it. But it's just gaining a rising importance of using mobile the right way. Because I think also going back or tying it to social media, for example, I mean, it's an entire journey that people have on mobile that they don't have on desktop because if you see Instagram, then you see a picture, then you see who's tagged, then you go there, then you go on the website, then you end up on the hotel's website. And if the hotel's website is not optimized for mobile, you have completely lost this person who came from social media. On desktop, you don't necessarily have as much of these people who come from, let's say, Instagram or TikTok, because most of them don't scroll on their phone, obviously. But losing those people at that step would be really, 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 really sad because they're right there. And I think there's this great term, which I don't even know if I pronounced correctly, the scrolly telling.
Oh, yeah, scrolly telling? Yeah, that's how I
Scrolly
read it,
telling.
scrolly telling, yeah.
Scrolly telling. Wow, it's kind of a tongue twister.
Tongue
Scrolly
twister.
telling. Tongue twister. Scrolly telling, which is basically telling a story as the user scrolls. So, like you mentioned, it's not enough to just have a beautiful looking website. That's like you're maybe there like 50%, but that's it. Maybe not even 50%. But really, people want to experience something different, something that they can remember, something that sticks in their mind. I mean, thinking about how many pages an average adult or person surfs during the day and the different impressions we get, it's really, really, really important that you actually stand out with your website.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think also, like, this actually ties really nicely into our next trend, which was not planned, but I think it works really well. Is I really liked what you said about thinking about if you're promoting your hotel on Instagram and your call to action is come to our website, and then they come to your website on mobile and it's a terrible experience, like you've just lost that business. And I think that's why the fifth trend for 2023 is actually building out what those customer journeys look like and building a complete campaign around those.
Yep, I didn't even know I made such a nice bridge to the next
You did.
point, but
You're a professional.
here we go. Wow, I'm taken aback by myself. How is that? No, yes, I think exactly what you said. Thinking about what touch points do you have with your customers, where are they coming from, and actually personalizing that journey because someone who comes from, let's say, an email newsletter might want to see something completely different than someone who comes from an ad that you put on social media versus someone who maybe clicked on your website from an influencer who had posted about your hotel. So really, really, really understanding where do the people come from that end up on your website. And that's just super important in order to get them from just a website visitor to an actual guest at your hotel. And also, therefore, building up that loyalty to your brand.
Yeah, totally. And I think that like it is a bit of a change in mind shift because it's going from thinking about like the individual message or the individual touch point to thinking about that wider campaign and how like all of the possible routes or parts of the journey the customer could have. Because exactly like you said, if you're spending money on ads and then somebody comes to your website and then they just leave and don't see anything from you. You've already spent money to acquire that traffic. You might as well spend a little bit more time personalizing the journey for them, investing a little bit more time into something that, possibly has a better outcome. Whereas maybe also you have somebody that just lands on your website from a Google search or something, but then they see like 5 or 10 different messages on the website, but none of them are actually like personalized to them or the stage of the journey that they're at. So I think, yeah, spending a little bit of time actually planning out like this whole customer journey and what the different touch points look like and the key kind of places that you can personalize it. I think it's really, really important.
And this is actually one of the trends which I'm curious about all of them, but this is one which I'm especially curious about because we also know and see, I think everyone who browses websites can see some hotels really have a focus on also this cross page targeting and marketing to say, like, hey, I was interested in wellness and I go back to the homepage, for example, and I see something with wellness. And then for me personally, I feel like, ah, this is perfect, awesome. I feel like my needs are being met. And you don't have that on every website. So I'm very curious to see because this is basically an elevated step from that ground level that, in my opinion, everyone should have.
Yep.
But to see how that actually evolves and how much of it we're going to see in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't normally do this, but a little plug, Hotel Champ Convert can definitely help with that personalization of the guest journey. I don't think I've ever done that before.
I feel like this is the first time. So basically, after we've come full circle of like 1 year of podcasts, now we're having a little like, yep, Hotel Champ Convert.
Little plug for Hotel Champ there.
Yeah. Let's just, just keep going.
We'll roll with it.
We'll roll. Do you have anything to say? Something else to that?
Maybe just one other little thing, which is another stat. 90% of guests now expect a personalized experience. So, exactly like what you were just saying, Nadine, it's like, it's almost like now personalization is also the bare minimum. So, it's like if your guests want it, you need to start actually planning out that guest journey a little bit more. Personalization doesn't just mean an exit message when they leave or a welcome message when they land on the website for the first time. This is exactly like what you're saying is like, you know, did you visit the wellness page? Here's something specific to that. Or did you come from this newsletter? Like, here's a throwback on the website to what we talked about in the newsletter. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement when it comes to personalization throughout the entire guest journey.
Yeah, and I think that also, hospitality kind of has the rep of not really moving with time, and I think it's time to change that because there's so many great opportunities out there, and I think that so many brands are doing it, not on hospitality, but completely unrelated sectors. Let's say online supermarkets. I mean, I search for like my specific apple, but my apple doesn't exist, and they say, "But what about this alternatively?" Like this is what I need, this is what I want, like
Yeah.
and
You
I think
see another apple, not like, I don't know, toilet paper or something.
yeah, exactly, like, oh my god. This reminds me of the meme where someone was looking for tampons and then they got, "Fortunately, this is not in stock, but this might interest you," and they were just like mushrooms, and, like, and this girl was
That
like,
was
"This is
very
not
helpful.
I'm not sure someone who put this there understood what the point of tampon." But, it can also go wrong. But
Okay.
in the normal setting, I think, as you also mentioned, personalization really is just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Nice. Moving from personalization to our sixth trend, which is the increased importance of social responsibility. And this is also really, really interesting to me. We had this wonderful chat with Ursula from Hotel Columbus Monte Carlo about sustainability and actually the impact or environmental impact of travel. Basically, what I find interesting is that sustainability has also been something that has been on everyone's radar for quite a while, but again, this is something that's going to have such a rising importance in 2023. I mean, if you think about the fact that already two-thirds of consumers are actually considering sustainable travel as a priority. This is not, again, we're not talking about optional here. We're talking about a priority. And I think this is something that also everyone should jump ship jump on the ship with,
Jump on board?
jump on board with because again, besides the fact that consumers and travelers are looking for this, I think it's just really important in general.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think also exactly like what you said, like travelers are already starting to make this a priority when they travel. And one thing that was really interesting in the podcast that Ursula was on, she was mentioning that for them, they see a lot of business travel was really like leading the way in terms of the sustainability requirements. And so I think especially if you have like a lot of business travelers, I think that's something that you should definitely consider as like more of a high priority because especially as their companies start to have more strict kind of standards and guidelines around like the impact that they make, I think that this is going to be a really important thing for your markets and for your guests.
Yeah, and we also had this discussion with her, right? Because I think there's still a little bit of this worry around the fact, like, how can you combine sustainability with luxury? And I think this is something that I'm really excited to see because a lot of times people still think it's either sustainability or luxury, but it can't be both. So finding this way to integrate both is going to force people in a positive way, positively force people to come up with new ways and creative ideas. And I think that, as you mentioned, also Ursula had some great inputs and great ideas what they're currently doing at the hotel. And yeah, there's just so much room to grow there and really excited.
Yeah, and I think also like for this one, and we did touch on it a little bit with Ursula as well, but that the social responsibility is like bigger than just sustainability stuff as well. So it can also be like what you are doing like in your local community or who you're hiring or, these kind of things as well. You definitely want whatever you're doing to actually be authentic rather than just like for marketing sake. But I think that you can see the impact again that this kind of like talking about your brand's social responsibility has because 89% of marketers that have already been investing in social responsibility content are going to maintain or increase your investment in it in 2023 as well. So I think one really key thing that I want to emphasize here is not just to post something made up just because it gets good likes or good engagement, but actually, like, if you're doing something and it's authentic and it's part of your hotel's DNA, I think that it really can resonate with your audience or resonate with your guests. And I think it is important to highlight that as well.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I just wanted to also mention, I mean, there's such great initiatives we already see now emerging. I know that Konstantin Kühn, for example, from Regio Marktplatz, who's also exactly just when you mentioned the thing about, giving back to your local communities. But thinking about, so what they do or what he does at Regio Marktplatz is basically looking for local producers of every ingredient, whether it's milk, cheese, flowers, whatever it is, bed linen, to see how can you actually source these products from the local communities and be sustainable. And also then in turn, because this has a positive effect for travelers who go to this destination, actually get products which are from the destination. If I travel to Switzerland. Maybe I want Swiss cheese, not French cheese. There's just so many little ways you can do this. And I think there's going to be so many exciting projects that we'll see emerging in 2023.
Yes, very exciting. Cool. Okay, so our seventh, so this is our second to last one for this episode is, or just our second to last one in general. I don't know why I said for this episode. Made it sound like there's another one coming. There's not. But our
We'll see.
seventh out of eight hotel marketing trends for 2023. Now, this is one that I'm really excited about. Nadine, you can tell me if this is this your favorite one? Probably not, but
Probably
you tell
not.
me.
I'm like close to saying my internet's breaking up. Going through a tunnel.
But has to be one of my favorite ones. So marketers, Google Analytics 4 is coming. Well, it's here. Google Analytics 4 is here, but Universal Analytics is going. And why this is really exciting is that GA4 gives us as marketers so much more insight and so much more ability to make data backed decisions because of what you can see in GA4. Now, the thing that's really important with this is that if you haven't already done it, I definitely recommend getting your GA4 set up as soon as possible. It doesn't take too long. You might need to, like, when I was setting it up for us, I looked at a few YouTube videos to make sure they had everything set up, but they do have a nice little wizard that they can take you through. And a lot of it is actually just done for you automatically. But the thing that's really important with this is that until you set up your GA4, it's not going to actually record any data. And when Universal Analytics is turned off, which is in the 1st of July 2023, you won't have that, like, collecting any more data. So say, for example, you're in GA4 and you want to compare it against like last year, but you don't have your GA4 set up last year, then you can't compare it against it. So the data is only looking forward. It won't look back. So definitely recommend getting your GA4 set up as soon as possible so that you can start getting data even before Universal Analytics is shut down and sunsetted.
Nice.
So another really cool thing about GA4 is that it works without cookies, which is important because Google's not getting rid of its cookies just yet, but we know that that's coming soon, right? So actually what it does is it uses machine learning and statistical modeling to actually create what these kind of journeys and like reports look like. So you can really get some nice reports in there about the customer journey, acquisition, engagement, retention. So there's some really good things in there. I personally find it much easier to use than Universal Analytics. So definitely recommend getting your GA4 set up as soon as possible.
I'm sold.
Good.
I I like this. It's not my favorite point, but I'll let it slide by. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
not
an
really a
important
trend.
point.
Yeah, I didn't really talk about it much as a trend. The trend is that you're able to make more data-backed decisions, and it's gonna be easier to, like, actually make those be able to make those decisions, have access to data that you didn't necessarily have access to before. So, it's a trend, but it's also really, really important for marketers moving forward.
Yeah, and I think from also what I understand, I mean, talking about all these trends, there's a lot going on and a lot of new things going on. So, of course, yeah, you want to try out and test, but you also need data to actually back up where you're going to go. So, this sounds like it's going to ease a lot of people's work in terms of actually looking at trends and data to make decisions that are Future proof.
100% yes.
Nice. The eighth and the final trend. And this one, I already like it just because we've had it last year in there as well. So I'm always happy for like a return visitor, which is influencers who continue to prove ROI. And for everyone or anyone who listened to all our episodes, we see you, first of all. Second of all, you've heard this before, the trend of influencers and how important they actually are to you and your brand and how valuable these people can be to you, especially again, linking back to what we talked about earlier with the social media aspect. And again, influencers are not decreasing, they're increasing in numbers. And it's not, again, it's not anything new this year that we're like, influencers. But it's just really important to keep in mind that they are still there and they're following, and the increase of people who are pursuing this path is increasing. And I think also here, a nice stat is that 89% of marketers that have actually worked with influencers plan to maintain or increase their investment in influencer marketing. So, again, here we see that people who have gone this route will continue to do so. And I think that's really important and really powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's one thing which is a new term that I hadn't heard of before, which was nano influencers. So micro and nano influencers, they're the small influencers with like 1,000 to 10,000 followers. And what's really interesting about those influencers, and also thinking about this new generation of travelers coming up, is that these next gen travelers, they really value, so next gen being Gen Z and millennials, they really value authenticity, and also, like we talked about earlier, like getting content from, or getting recommendations from, content creators. And the thing with the nano and micro influencers is because they are smaller content creators, smaller influencers, they're generally perceived as more trustworthy and authentic, so that their recommendations can actually be trusted, which is really fantastic when you link that back to, that next gen traveler. That's what they're looking for. If that's who you're going after, then having a look at working with some micro and nano influencers is not only a great way to reach them, but also a budget friendly approach as well, because they tend to charge a lot less than like the bigger influencers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again that links back, like you said, we're talking about linking back, but that's just how coherent these trends are. Again, as we talked about before with YouTube, that's just kind of like this trustworthy source. People think it's more of this friendly connection because through social media, we all feel like we're a little bit, together closer, just as you mentioned, especially using again these nano influencers is also a new term for me, but it's just a great way to kind of also get nice pictures on your social media without having to invest in photographers or thinking about what pictures, but just taking these out of like live situations, putting them online. People see it, people go on your website, and they're linking back to our trend, mobile friendly websites. So I think this is really nice, really good trend as well. Excited about it.
Very nice. So that was all of our trends. Do you want to say what your favorite one was? Do you have a favorite?
It's a tight race because I think, first of all, I think all of the trends are really exciting and I can't wait to see where they bring us. I'm gonna go for two. And the third place is also a close call, but I'm gonna go for generative AI just because I feel like we're just at the beginning and it feels like such an
Yep.
explorative phase that I'm just super curious to see what all will be possible in the future. But also, I think another one is the influencers continuing to prove ROI because I think there were a lot of people out there for the longest time who thought this is just something that'll pass by. This is nothing that really has merit to it. And coming back from all of these maybe, staged pictures and you're not entirely sure to now nano influencers maybe who share something about their stay, building this trust and just the opportunities the brands have with that is just exciting to see. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I agree on the generative AI, but then maybe I've gone 3, but 3 favorites. I really like the short form videos, and I also really like,
Google Analytics.
oh, no, I'm just gonna say 8 of them. And the customer journey mapping, I think is really nice as well. The making the complete campaigns, I really like that one.
Nice. That's awesome.
Okay, and then I don't wanna steal your question, but then I will also ask it to you anyway. Do you wanna ask your favorite question first, and then I don't have to ask it, then I can just jump in after you?
Yeah, sure. So, my favorite question, still in 2023, is what are your 3 key takeaways from this episode?
So my first one is around generative AI, which is definitely don't be scared of generative AI, but give it a go, start testing it out and just see it as a bit of an experiment for now. You definitely don't want to get left behind, but you don't have to start panicking right away. But you should still make sure that you're starting to become familiar with how these softwares work. So that's my first one. My second one is get GA4 as soon as possible, made that a top priority, especially in the first few months of 2023, so that you can start collecting some data. You'll thank your past self when UA is gone. So definitely do that. And then the third one, I think, is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. With all of these things that we've talked about today, that doesn't mean that you have to go and strip away everything that you've been working on. I think it's always good to test things out and give it a go before completely changing your whole strategy. So give things a go, test it out, but don't be overwhelmed if you're not doing these things already.
Awesome.
Cool. And then what about you? Or do you want me to
Mm.
ask it? Or
Nope.
and then I feel
No, it's
like I've
fine. I'll
stolen
just
your question.
no, no, no. I'll just jump in. Yeah, those are awesome. I was already waiting and to see like, oh, hopefully you're not gonna have the same key takeaways as me, because otherwise it just seems like I'm just like stealing from you because you had to go first. But my 3 key takeaways. So I think the first one is that a lot of things might seem like a fad, but they're not. And we do see trends coming back and getting stronger. So don't miss your chance. A little bit like you said, it's not too late. Just make sure you kind of get on board. The second one is that I think through all these trends, you see how many endless opportunities there are and how many possibilities. And I know that you can kind of get lost and like, oh my God, do I have to do everything? But therefore, it's even more important to understand who are you as a brand? What do you want to stand for? How do you want other people to perceive you? And really narrow down on a strategy that works for you. And don't be afraid of actually testing out new things. And the third key takeaway, this is a little bit I'm cheating a little bit because it's not necessarily the takeaway, but the key takeaway is that there's still so much space for sustainability in the hospitality industry. And we've seen so many great brands already taking the first step. Six Senses, for example, so many others out there, Columbus Hotel Monte Carlo, but there's still so much room for others to kind of pull along. And I think we're still not yet at a point where we fully can say that we combine luxury with sustainability. So I'm super curious to see where that aspect is going to take us.
Really nice. I don't think that was cheating at all. I think that was a really good one. So I
All
think,
right,
yeah,
nice.
great wrap
Phew.
up. That's awesome. Well, I think that's everything that we wanted to talk about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before I wrap us up?
No, I think we covered it all.
Awesome. So, for those of you listening at home, at the gym, at work, in your car, wherever you are, please share thoughts with us. If you think there's anything else that we've missed today, or if you have any questions about any of the topics that we've covered, please get in touch with us at welcome@hotelchamp.com and make sure to follow Hotel Champ on all of your favorite social media channels. Stay tuned for more episodes in the future. Take care of yourself. Have a great day, and bye
Bye.
bye.